So we're on Daf Mem Dalid, and we're by the Mishnah. Okay, good morning. But before we start, we're starting a new parsha now called Moshe Shemra. So I'd like to go through the psukim in order to get the background. Then we'll be able to do the Mishnah better. Chaim David asked to put on this, if anybody knows how to do that. Okay. So I just put on the screen the parsha Moshe Shemra, which is in Parshas Kisei, and we'll just read through the psukim to get an idea what we're talking about, and then we'll highlight on the Gemara with highlights that the Gemara is going to do. So the pasuk talks about a man marries a woman and he has relations with her and he hates her. This means right away the first night, as soon as they had relations, so now right away he wants to get rid of her, not only to divorce her, but he wants to also say that she was not a virgin. And he made a libel about her. He made a bad name for her. And he says the following: I took this woman for a wife, and I approached her. He's had relations, and I didn't find that she's a virgin. So the pasuk talks about two scenarios. One is that he was a liar, and one is that it was true. So the first case talks about that he was a liar. The father and the mother of this girl should take the proof of her virginity to the elders of the city. And the father of the girl should tell to the elders the following: the father says that I gave my daughter to this man for a wife, and he hates her, and he made for a libel about her. He framed her and said, I didn't find for your daughter virginity, and here is the virginity of my wife, of my daughter. And the pasuk talks about as if they have a cloth. They should spread out the cloth that shows that she had blood, and that's the proof that she was a virgin. So that means that he made a shemra, motzi shemra. He slandered her. So the elders should take that man. They should punish him. The yisru is to yisurim. How do you say that? Afflict him. And that the Gemara says means malchus. It means malchus. They give him malchus. Chayiv malchus for that. And also, he's also, they punish him 100 kesef. Before we had Bahanus and Pat, it was 50 kesef. There's 100 kesef. And they give the money, the Bezdin gives the money to the father of that girl, because he made a bad name for that virgin of Israel. Here, just point out the word B'Solas Israel. And also, she should be for him to a wife. Means he has no right to, he can never divorce her. We have that also by onus also. That onus also has to marry her and he cannot divorce her, and he'll also by a motzi shemra. That's the first parasha where it talks about that it was found to be a lie. So just to point out, this pasuk says three things about it. Anshu also mea kesef. I'm sorry, Yisru also Anshu also mea kesef, and also Velosi Elisha. Three things. First is Malchus, and also he's chayiv 100 kesef to the father, and also that he can never send her, he can never divorce her. And the other scenario is where it was found to be true. If it's true, it was found that it was true that she's not a virgin. So it says she's chayiv skila. So that has to be understood that first of all that they found proof that she was mezana when she committed adultery while they were married betrothed, while they were arusa. Because if it would have been as a ketana, if it would have been before the narus, before the arusa, so then she wouldn't be chayiv misa. She would have been a penuya. She would have been an unmarried girl that she had relations. It wouldn't be, even though she doesn't have virginity, it doesn't mean that she was chayiv misa. So the pasuk obviously means that they have proof, besides the fact that she's not a virgin, also that she lost her virginity because she was muzana as an arusa. They should take out the girl to the door of the house of the father. People of the city should stone her. So this is a special halacha that they stone her by their father's house, which usually is not like that. Usually is a base of skila. Usually there's a place where they give skila. All the bases better than it. But over here, they did it by the father's house. If Mesa and she dies, of course, if they give her skila, she dies. Son of Allah Yisrael. To point out again, it says the word Yisrael again, because she did a disgusting thing amongst Am Yisrael. There's no base of to be Mazana while she was in her father's house, means after she was married. After she was married, but still she was betrothed, but still in her father's house. You should what's the word to be out there? Eradicate. You should eradicate evil from your midst. The pasuk continues just to point out that the rest of the psukim already. It talks about also if she was already Ashes Ish, not the din of skila is only by Naam Rasa, only if she was only Arusa, not a Nesua. But if she's ready in the sewer, then the din is chenek. Ki motzei ish shachev b'misha b'lo asbal u'meisu gam shnehem u'ish shachev b'ma'isha b'isha u'v'yata ram Yisrael. If a man is fine living with a woman, here's with her consent, both of them did it. A woman is already bulas bal, she's already to a husband, she's already has a husband, not that she's non-murasa, she's already in a sewer. So then both of them die, the man and the woman, and you should eradicate evil from Yisrael. And here the din doesn't say how to kill them, doesn't say skila. Here the din is that it's chenek. This is a regular ish that becomes easier kind of a death. For some reason, non-murasa is more stringent than skila, which is the most stringent of the death penalties. And here, if she's already a ish, so then the penalty is chenek, which is the easiest of the four. The person continues about a non-murasa, nothing to do about motzi shemra. If there was a nara basula marasa, a girl, nara, she's 12 between 12 and 12 and a half, and she's a basula, a virgin, and marasa, and a man found her and lied with her. First talks about that she was with her consent, and then it talks about that it was against her will. Both say shnehem al sharayahi usikaltem or some both chayiv skila. Like I said before, that namarasa is chayiv skila. That's not a real advar shalot a couple here. She killed the girl because she did not scream, means that she consented. Or else she should have screamed and she should have tried to get away from him. So when she consented, she's also chayiv skila. And the man, because he afflicted the wife of his fellow man, that she's already in a rusa, and you should eradicate evil from your midst. This is the din also of namarasa. Before it was namarasa, but over there it was the husband. She was already nesua, means that she already married, and then the husband, the one who brings out the point that she was mizana when she was in arusa. Over there, there's an extra dinam about Pesach Beis Aviyah. Here it's also chayiv skila, but the din of Pesach Beis Aviyah to do it by her by the father's house. That's only in the case where she was already married, and then the husband reveals to us that she's already was mizana, and they find out that it was while she was in arusa. Here's a regular case of an amarasa. And not that she got married. So then here is also that she's chayiv skila, but there's no Pesach Beis Aviyah over here. And here it does say el hashar irahi, to the gate of the city. Before I spoke about Pesach Beis Aviyah, here it talks about the shar irahi, by the gate of the city. And then it talks about if she was not, it was against her will. So of course she's not chayiv misa, only here. If it was in the field, means a place where she couldn't have gotten any help, and the man seized her and lie with her. Only the man is chayiv misa, chayiv skila. But for the girl, nothing is done because she's not chayiv that penalty because she was forced. The same as somebody would have forced something. He gives an example of a tzika. If someone kills here, also he forced her. Because he found her in the field. No one was around. She was screaming when no one was there. So that's why she's not chayiv misa. It was against her.
Is she married or she's not married?
Yeah, she's an amarasa. Marasa means Raz marriage me.
She's married,
yes.
That's what he's chayiv misa.
Right.
If he rapes a girl that's not married.
Right. That's the regular case of a onus. That's the din of 50 kesef, and he has to marry her, and he can't divorce her anymore. But that's not chayiv misa. But here she was marasa. She's not marasa. Chayiv skila even. If it would have been a regular isha then it would have been chenek. And if it's not marasa, then it's chayiv skila. This is the pasukim that they say we have a case of motzi shemra, both in the case where it was false and then the case where it was true. And then in we can make a little bit another parsha over there. In if it was true, then it talks about Esha Sish who's chenek. Then it speaks about an ara basula marasa, but not that it was found after she got married to somebody with motzi shemra, but it was found that she was when she was a marasa, so then she's chayiv skila a pesach shara.
Chenek is worse than skila?
No, skila is worse. Skila is straight for herod, same way you say it on Yom Kippur. Skila is straight for herod b'chenek. It's in that order. Skila is the most stringent of the four. It goes in that order. So that's the psukim that we're going to be talking about now that we go to the Gemara. So
I never understood the pasuk that if she screamed that if she screamed somebody would have helped her. That means there's Adam there. So because if the man gets killed, it had been Adam with a sword.
Mm-hmm. Since the case must be there, Adam, in order to kill him, there must be Adam over there. So there were people. So how come they didn't stop him? Okay, how come they didn't stop him? They didn't have a chance to stop him. But how come it has to be that they also warned him also, because else he wouldn't be chayiv skila. So they did warn him, but they weren't able to stop him. They could have killed him also in order to stop him. But but they didn't. So they weren't able to. So he's chayiv skila. And you want to say that if so, then why was she not screaming? So it says she was screaming. Tzaka. Tzaka. It says she screamed. Is that good enough? Let's say she does scream. She did scream. But no one was able to help her. The Edom were there, but they couldn't help her. It wasn't in a place where they could have helped. Is that satisfactory?
Maybe.
You have to look into it. Okay, so that was the psukim of Moshe Shemra Parashas Kisei. So now we go to the Gemara, and we're on Daf Mem Daled. So the Mishnah's main issue is going to be the fact that it says Be Yisrael. In this parsha, it said 2 times. It says Israel, and also it says in the other pasuk when it talks about when it was true that she was Mizana, so it says Nevala Be Yisrael. What does the pasuk say over there? Because she did Nevala Be Yisrael. Kiyas, son of Allah, Yisrael, is no base over here. So it says 2 times the word be Yisrael. And it wants to make a deal out of this pasuk be Yisrael that has something to do dafka by Yisrael. So the Mishnah is going to talk about the case. That's the overview of the Mishnah. It's going to talk about if she was a Gioris, that usually a Gioris has a din of a Jew. But here the pasuk says be Yisrael, so it's coming to exclude from the regular din that a Gioris is as same as a Jew. And here this halacha about skila, etc., and the punishment if it's true, if it's not true. So it's only talking about Yisrael. Only if the Jew and a Gioris is going to be excluded from this halacha. There's going to be 3 categories of kind of different levels of Jew, a mamash and Gioris, something in between, and then mamash and Jewish. So the first case is Hagioris is Gairo Bita Ima. The words literally mean that the Gioris, a woman converted with her daughter, which is really, we're not concerned with the mother, we want the daughter. It means that the daughter was converted with her mother. Another way of saying that she was a Gioris after birth. She was a Gioris after birth. She's a little girl. So how could she have been a Megayer? That her mother was Megayer. So the Mishnah is casing that a Gioris that converted with her daughter. The way we would have said it was that the girl who got converted with her mother. The point is that she was a Gioris. She converted as a child because her mother converted her. And she was Vizinsta. And she, in this case of the Motzi Shemra, that she was a Nara Marasa. She was found after she got married. It was found that she was Mizana in her Arusa state. So the pasuk says that usually then would be skila. Yeah, the Mishnah says that it doesn't have the punishment. It's not included in the parsha of Nam Rasa, which is chayiv skila. It's going to be chenek, the regular punishment for Eishes Ish. Here, even though it's Nam Rasa, also the pasuk, the Mishnah doesn't say the pasuk. The Gemara understands we know the pasuk of Yisrael. Since it says Dafka Jew, it has to come to say something, and the Gioris is considered not mamish the same level. Otherwise, we say always that a Gioris is like a Jew, but there's an exception. The pasuk has an extra word Yisrael to say that this punishment is only if someone was born Jewish. But if she was born a goy and she became a Gioris afterwards, so then this halacha doesn't apply, and the punishment is going to be chenek, strangulation, and not stoning. Also, there's no halacha to punish her by the father's home. She happens to have no father. She's a Gioris. The father's not her father. It's not halacha to be the father. So there's no halacha to do this killing of chenek by the father's house either. And also, there's no din of me'asela. Means if it was found that it was false, we had 2 cases. One scenario was where it was true, one where it's not true. When it's not true, and they usually punish the husband, so here those punishments don't apply. They don't punish a me'asela. Also, the Gemara talks about giving a malchus. All those things don't apply. That's the first category, and the case was that she became a ger after she was born. The second case was that she became a gioris as a fetus. It means that her mother was Megaya while the mother was pregnant, and the daughter was born once the mother was already Jewish. The conception was when the mother was still a Goya, but the birth was when the mother was already a Jewess. So I used to think, we spoke about this a couple of times, but I used to think if she's born from a Jewish mother, she's Jewish, but it's not true. It has to do with the conception, and therefore she's considered a Giora. She became a Giora together with the mother. When a pregnant woman converts, she's converting her fetus together with her. And the child born is considered a Giora. It's not a Giora is a boy or a girl, but it's not considered a Jewish born because she gave birth when she was a Jew. It has to be that she conceived when she was Jewish. And the Gemara talks about that the mikvah helps for the fetus also. The Gemara talks about why it's not a chatzitza. The Gemara talks about, not over here, but the Gemara talks other places that the conversion of the mother converts the child also. So this is a case someplace in the middle, that she was a Gioris, but she was a Gioris before birth. That's the case of the conception was before the mother was Jewish, and the birth was when the mother was Jewish. Harezu b'skila, Lo Pesach Beis Ha'av, lo Me'asela. Here, something in between. Interesting. The Gemara is going to talk about it. On one hand, we say that is Chayiv Skila, that she's considered Jewish more than before. If it would have been a Gioris after birth, then there's only Bechenek. Here it says since she was a Gioris before birth, so it's Skila. But it still says there's no din of killing her by the father's house. That's because she has no father. Okay, the father's not a father because she was Megaya. But also, lo me'asela, there's no din of me'asela either, that if the husband was lying, when he said this whole thing, and the pasuk says he's punished with 100 kesef and malchus, everything, it doesn't apply. So this is a kasha. This makes sense to us because she's not called Jewish, she's not called Yisrael, she's called the Giorish, she's called the convert. But the question was, why should it be skila? This has to be explained. If she's considered Giorish, not considered Jewish born, because her mother converted while she was pregnant, so she's considered Gioris also. So why is it Chayiv Skila? We said in the beginning that it's only Bechena. This has to be explained. And the third case is the mother was Megaya, 100% convert, and then she conceived. That's a regular Gioris. She's a Gioris 100%, and then she conceived. So then the child born is a regular Jew. The child born is a regular Jew, and therefore it will be Yesh La Av. I'm sorry. A big dot over here. Let's make a big dot. No Mishnah after that. So the Mishnah means to say that which would mean that she's Chayiv Skila, this is Avera, and there's a Pesach Beis Aviyah, like a regular Jew, they stone her by her father's house, and also if he was a lie, so then they punish him with Malchus and with Meir Kesef and Lo Elisha, that's a regular Jew. So we have three cases over here, just to highlight them. One is Hagiorish and his guy will beat the Ima. The second case is Harasa Shlo B'Kedusha V'Leidasa B'Kedusha. And the third case is Haisarasa V'Leidasa B'Kedusha. New Mishnah. This is even talking about a regular Jewish girl now. This is nothing to do with the Mishnah before. Rashi points out this regular case. It says in the pasuk that if this girl, she was Mazana, was found out that it was true that she was Mazana as an Arusa, so it says that they stone her by the father's house. Pesach Beis Aviyah. Skalu Pesach Beis Aviyah. By the door of the father's house. A special din that one of the Mepharsim, the Gemara is going to say, because we're saying that it's the family that didn't take care of the girl that she was Mazana, and therefore it's considered like a announcement. But it says that they stone her by your father's house. What if she has no father's house? There's two ways not to have a father's house. Either father has no house, or she has no father, so it's not a father's house. So here it says that that's not going to be ma'akev. She's still going to be chayiv skila, but it's not going to be a din to do it by the father's house, because there's no father's house. Yesh la'av ve'en la'pesach beis ha'av, or yesh la'pesach beis ha'av ve'en la'av. If one of the two cases, she has a father, but he doesn't have a house, so there's no doorway to the house. And or if they have a father's house, but there's no father, I raise with skila, then she's still chayiv skila, even though he can't do it by the father's house. But never pesach beis ha'av. This Allah is only that the chatchila they're supposed to kill her by her father's house, but it doesn't mean if there's no father's house you don't give her skila. She's still chayiv skila. So there are two mishnayos over here. The first one was about the different levels of a gioras. Either she was mamish after she was born, she was Megaya, or she was conceived as a goy, but she was born as a Jew. But that's still considered a gioras. But there's a special halacha if they're still chayiv skila. As far as this halacha, it's not excluded from the word Yisrael. And the third case is that she was conceived even when she was conceived, the mother was already Jewish. Then she's considered a regular Bas Yisrael. She's a daughter of a gioras, but that's okay. She's a regular Jew now. So and then the Mishnah said the last thing was that Pesach Beis Aviyah is only lachatchila. If there's not, that's take away the din skila. Tomorrow starts on Amud Beis. Manan Emili. How do we know? So the question is on the middle case. The middle case was a strange case that she was conceived as a goy when the mother was still a goy, and then the mother converted together with her as a fetus. So she's not considered Jewish. She's considered a gioris, but still that she's chayiv skila, even though the pasuk said before be Yisrael that it's only as a Jewish mamish, not a gioris, and here she's a gioris. So that's the most question. But not immediately. This middle case doesn't make sense. How come she's chayiv skila? The pasuk says an extra word. It says in the pasuk that they should do skalu pesach beis aviyah, whatever v'mesa. This the pasuk inside. I didn't put it on to be able to jump around, but it says. They should take her out to the father's house and stone her. The people that say she should stone her, and she should die. Now, of course, if they stone her, she dies. That's the extra pasuk to say that she should die. Of course, she dies. The pasuk is coming to be marba something. The pasuk is coming to say there's another case that she dies with the same skila, even if it doesn't fit in exactly the pasuk we spoke about. That is Yisrael. She's not a Yisrael. She was a gioris. But it's a kind of a gioris since she was like Dasa B'Kedusha, since when she was born she was born to the Jewish mother already, even though she's not considered a Jew. She's considered a Gioris, but the pasuk coming the rabbos of Rosh Shlo B'Kedusha, well, that's a B'Kedusha. That's coming to include. In this case, also it's Chayiv Skila. The Gemara says, if so, then you're including her as a Jew. So then, as everything, she should have the same thing as a Jew. That if he was a liar and you give him malchus and Meir Sela, they has to pay 100 silver. So how come you don't say that it applies there also? The Mishnah says not. The Mishnah said, just to go back a second. The Mishnah said someplace in between. The middle case, he said skila, but below Meir Sela, there's no din of Meir Sela. Why not? If you say that the pasuk says that she's considered Jewish enough as far as being chayiv skila, so then if he's a liar, then there should be enough Jewish that she should have to pay Meir Kesef also. How come the Mishnah divides between these two halachas? The answer is Amakra Vamesa. The pasuk we learned out was this pasuk where it says extra pasuk where it says as far as the death, that even this case also is chayiv skila. Vamesa is Rabsha below Leknas. That the pasuk is only come to talk about the death penalty. That for the death penalty, it's included that this girl who was like Dasa B'Kedusha also is included in the death penalty of skila, but not the Gabidad Halachas. The Gabidad Halachas, she's not considered a Jew, she's considered a convert, and therefore the Halachas don't apply. Maybe it's only coming to include the case where she was born, she was even conceived as the mother was Jewish already. How do you know to make this middle case? The answer is no, that's Mamash a Jewess. He, Yisrael is Malisei, she's a regular Jew. So in that case, surely he's going to be Chayiv Skila. You don't need a pasuk for that. The pasuk of Mesa is coming to include a case which is someplace in between. Maybe it's coming to say that even the Gioris Mamish also is included with Mesa. It comes to tell you that even if she was a Gioris Mamish, also there's the regular lachas of Skila. It can be Israel, my Hanile. There's the word be Israel. It means the Gemara is dealing with these two psukim. That's the Gemara's answer. On one hand, it says Mesa. On one hand, it says be Israel. So the word Yisrael is coming to minimize that only a Jewish mamish, and if she'd be a Gioris, then the halacha doesn't apply. On the other hand, the Ramesh is coming to say that something does apply even if she's not 100% Jewish, and we can't say it's talking about that she's conceived Jewish because then she's a regular Jew. You can't say that she's not Jewish at all. She was a Gioris because then the word Yisrael wouldn't be telling you anything. Yisrael comes to exclude if she was conceived as, if she was born as a goy and she converted afterwards. So then she's not in the parsha of skila, but the pasuk of Mesa is coming to say that if the birth was once the mother was Jewish, even though the conception was when she was a goy, so she's not really Jewish. The daughter is considered a convert, but the pasuk is coming to say, look, skila, it's also included, and she is chayiv skila. End of that Gemara. Now it's also new sugya. New sugya. Try to make a stop over here. New sugya, and the sugya is called. Amosi, let's just erase all that before and be able to start again. Amosi Shema La Yisoma. What's the din if she has no father? She has no father. When the Mishnah spoke about she has no father, maybe that's talking about that she died afterwards. We'll see. But she has no father. She's Yisoma. Does the halacha of paying the money apply? It says that if he's a liar, well, the Mishnah, the Gemara doesn't talk about the case about killing her. So let's talk about what the Gemara talks about. If the pasuk says that if he was lying, so there are three punishments over there. That he pays Meir Kesef, that they gave him Malchus, and also that he has to marry her and he can never divorce her. So what if she's Yisoma? Did the same halachas apply? She's an orphan, she has no father. So there's
the mother never takes place.
So it's interesting, even though the pasuk does talk about the mother also. In this pasuk it does talk about the mother, but the pasuk the whole time talks about Abi Anara. So it seems that it has only to do with the father and not with the mother. So there's going to be a machlokus over here. What's the din of Yisoma? We're going to have over here, there's Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, just to point out the names over here. It's going to be Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. He says Amosi Shemra is going to be Pater. And a couple of lines later, we're going to have Rabbi is going to argue Rabbi Amachayev. So it'll be a machlokas about this case. If someone was Motzi Shemra on a Yisoma, why did that get blue? I didn't mean that. Okay, it's good. If when we publish it, make it yellow. Motzi Shemra ala Yisoma, but that's the case. He's Yisoma. So Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina says Pater that there's no din to pay the Meir Kesef, you don't give it to her. The pasuk says that the money is given, the person gives the money to the father of the girl. So it talks about there's a father. If there's no father, so Allah doesn't apply. So this comes to exclude that this girl that has no father, there's no din of paying the Meir Kesef, even though he did the same evil. The man did the same evil. He's Moshe Shem on this girl, but since she has no father, then there's no Allah. I don't know why. They have to know the Kabbalah to know the reasons for all this. I don't know the reasons. But if she's Yisoma, then the Allah doesn't apply. Must have been Akasha from another place where we say that Yisoma is included. Now we're jumping back to the din of bonus and mafata. We already finished the din of bonus and mafata, and we didn't talk about it. Here it talks about if does halacha of the onus of mafata apply to a yisoma. That's talking about that someone was mafata, he seduced the girl, and it says that he should marry her. If he doesn't marry her, he has to give meya kesef. How does it say over there? First of all, the one says he also could refuse if he doesn't want to, but he has to pay meya kesef. But it says also the father could refuse, and there was also a drasha that the daughter could refuse. So we didn't have this before. It says that even Yisoma also is eligible for the knas. Before it's really, the pasuk is really talking about imo'en as far as refusing to marry. They don't want to marry. Either the father doesn't want his daughter to marry his daughter to marry him, or she doesn't want to marry. The Gemara said before also. But here it says that as far as the knas goes, it comes to include that the extra word mo'en 2 times there's a double lashon to include that Yisoma also is eligible for the knas. So we didn't speak about this before, as far as I remember, and here it says that Yisoma is eligible for the knas of mafata. I saw here that Taisus Rid over on the side. He says that of course it's not talking about a mafata because we had many times that if the money would go to the girl herself and she was mispateh, she was the one who was seduced, so she was mavata, she was mochel. The din of paying is only to the father, that he can't be mavata on the father's money, or if it's an onus that she was forced. But if it would be that she was seduced and she agreed to it, then it can't be that he's trying to pay her anything because she was mochel everything. So he says that Aslav Dafka is not talking about, even though Pasuk is talking about a mafata, but since it can't be talking about that because she would have been put, she was waived any kind of payment coming to her, so it's talking about an onus. But anyway, what does it say? Like a Meno Indian kind of a thing. If it's not talking about a mafata, do it onus. So what do you see? That a Yisoma is eligible for knas, and the Gemara doesn't see a difference between Motzi Shemra and onus and mafata. That everything should be the same. If over there you see that Yisoma is eligible for knas, so also by Motzi Shemra, Yisoma should be eligible for knas. So it's a kasha on a basic Bachanina who said that this pattern. The answer is the same one who asked the kasha. Who was it? Either a basic Barav and a basic Razvida. They asked the kasha. So the one who asked the kasha said the same teretz. Said the teretz. That the Brisa doesn't mean that when he raped her that she was a Yisoma. In that case, it would be pater. The case is talking about that her father was still alive at the time, but then before he came to pay, the father died. So then it says that it goes to the Yisoma. Now that we had many times already. We had that sugya that if he died, also it goes to the daughter. Then it's la'atzma, and then she wasn't, and then it does go to her because at the time she wasn't mochel because they went to the father. So her bechila didn't help, went to the father, and now that the father died, so then it goes to her. It doesn't go. It's not like a regular Yerusha. Over there we spoke about the Gemara. The Mishnah spoke about in the beginning of Naresh and Patata. If there was a mother bedin, does the mother bedin change it? Doesn't make it in the regular in the father's pocket only when he collected. But if it was before the mother bedin, then surely the money would go to her. And that's what the pasuk is saying, that if the father died after the act, after the onus happened, then the girl is eligible for the money. But if she would have been a Yisoma at the time of the act, then there would be no knas, and there's no difference between Moshe Shemra and Yisoma. The Gemara agrees in the teretz also. The fact is no difference between Moshe Shemra and onus, and the same way Beis Rabbeinu that says pater by Moshe Shemra, he says pater by onus, and the pasuk over there that we learn out that there is a chiyuv for Yisoma to pay. That's only if she became a Yisoma after the act. But if she was a Yisoma already during the act of the onus and mafata, and then there's no din. And here also, Moshe Shemra also, if she became a Yisoma after the act, so then after the chiyuv, means after the time that there was the father, even though it says here I'm not sure, but if there was at the time there was the father and then she became a Yisoma, so then the Beis Rabbeinu probably would agree that there is a chiyuv to the Yisoma. But if at the time of the act she was ready Yisoma, then it's pater. All this was a Beis Rabbeinu. But Rava argues not Beis Rabbeinu, Rava Machayev. And he brings a proof. He doesn't deal with the proof that he brought, the pasuk of Nasnu Lavian Ara, but he has a proof that it must be chayiv, and that's how it seems we're going to pass him. That even if she's a yasoma, again, there's no difference between Motzi Shemra or onus. That even if she's a yasoma, there's also chayiv to pay. Mimai, from the following proof. B'netani Ami said over a brisa. I don't know if it's Rabbi Ami. Ami said over a brisa. Besulas Yisrael, below Besulas Gerim. That's the brisa that he said, which is very similar to our Mishnah, that we said the word Besulas Yisrael, it says in the pasuk Kinav Allah Sabi Yisrael, or it says Ki Otzi Shemra Besulas Yisrael, but it didn't Otzi Shemra. It says because why is he chayiv the punishment of 100 kesef and malchus and everything? Because he was Motzi Shemra al Besulas Yisrael, on a Jewish maiden, a virgin. For lo Besulas Gerim, and that we learn out, not a ger, which is what we said before, that the halacha doesn't apply to Bas Gerim if she was a Gioris, to a Gioris. If she was a Gioris, then this halacha doesn't apply. That was the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, scroll back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that a Georishin is Gar Bita Ima, Harezu B'chenek, and there's no din of Me'asela. There's no din of Me'asela because she's a Georis, and the pasuk says Dafka Yisrael. So the Gemara is going to say, in a word, what's the Gemara going to say? That every Georis doesn't have a father. Since halachically the father is not considered the father, so every Georis, every convert girl is considered no father. Since you say that if you're going to say that the din of Pesach Besa, what is it? Is only if there's a father, so every Gioris should be excluded because she has no father. You don't need a special pasuk to exclude a Gioris. If you say that even by a Jewish girl, the whole halacha only applies of paying 100 kesefs only if she has a father, so this Gioris has no father. So she's the same as an orphan, same as a Yisoma. The fact that you have to have a pasuk to say that a Gioris is excluded, that must be that a Jewish girl in the same situation who has no father, there would be a din of paying Meir Kesef. And that's the Gemara's proof. Since Ami said, the Brisa, Basulas Yisrael, Basulas Gerim, the pasuk says, Kiotzi Shemal, Basulas Yisrael, which comes to exclude the girl who would be a Gioris, so then there would be no din of paying the 100. So, if you say, all in well, if you say that if the same case would be by a Jewish girl that she has no father, she'd have to pay. Then the pasuk has to say that a Georis girl, she has no father. There you have to say that he's potter, because if it would have been a Jewish case, if it would have been a Jewish girl, mamish, that her father died, there'd be a din of paying the 100 kesef. So you have to say that a Georis is different. But if you say Eli Yamrit Yisrael Kai Gavna Potter, even a Jewish girl would have been potter if she has no father. Hashta Yisrael Potter began Boya, then it'd be no chiddush that a Georis doesn't get the Meir Kesef because she has no father. It must be that the din of Meir Kesef applies even to a Yisoma, and that's the end of that Gemara. It seems you pass like Rava, and we'll have to say the V'nasnu Laviyanara is only if there's a Viyanara. If not, then it goes to her, and that's the end of that sugya. We finished that sugya. Machlokes, and it seems you pass like Rava that even Yisoma also is eligible to the 100 Kesef if there's no father. Next halacha, and that's going to be the rest of the sugya for today. The next sugya is the title. Amosi Shemra ala Ketana. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is going to be another sugya after this. Amosi Shemra ala Ketana. The person talks about a nara. We know a nara means 12 years old to 12 and a half. Not a Bulgaris. If she's already 12 and a half, she's already older, and the halacha doesn't apply. And now we're talking about a Ketana. How about if she's less than nara? She's less than 12 years old. We had the sugya by Onus Amafata. Over there I spoke about the Machlokes Ramein Rabbanan. Ramei said Dafka Nara, not more, not less. And Rabbanan said a Ketana also. And we really had reference to the sugya before, and we're coming back to it again. So Shlokish says about Amosi Shemra. Amosi Shemra la Ketana Pater. And he says a drasha. Shenem, Pater is also, that's what we're going to pass in Pater. That's not going to be a question. No one's going to argue on that. It's only going to be Pater. Amosi Shemra la Ketana Pater. That even though the Lacha says that if he's Amosi Shemra, so then there's Yisru also, Anshu also, and Losi Alisha, but it seems all this doesn't apply if he was a Ketana. If she was less than 12 years old, it doesn't apply. And it brings a pasuk, and the Gemara is going to even say you don't need the pasuk. But Shenema, V'nasnu Laviyan Ara, Nara Moli Dibra Kasav. So if you notice in the pasuk, very interesting that usually we say Nar is a lad, male, and Nara is a maiden, a girl. Nar and Nara, there's masculine, feminine, and Nara we spell with a hey. But very interesting, the pasuk very, very often, maybe almost always, when it says the word Nara, it has a kamas under the resh, but there's no hey. The pasuk doesn't have a hey. It's written Nara means if you look at the pasuk, you don't see a difference if it's masculine or feminine. It says nun ayin resh. It doesn't have the hey. Here, when it says v'nasnu laviyan Nara, it does say with a hey. And that Nara moli dibrakas, if it says it full, it spells it out in full. And that comes to say that it's dafka Nara, not a ketana. If it has Nara without a hey, and you read it Nara, but it's not spelled like that, that's coming to say not mamash and Nara, even less than, even a ketana also, even a minor also isn't included in the parsha. But here that it says Nara with a hey, Nara moli dibra kasav is coming to say only if she's a Nara, but if she'd be a ketana, then there'd be no such din. And the Gemara now is going to say that it's true, but you don't need a pasuk for that. That's going to be the Gemara's kasha now. Maskif Rav Achabar Abba. Time to ba Nara. You'd say without the hey of the word hanara, you'd say the pasuk is talking about even a ketana. Is that possible? Of course not. The pasuk over there says that if it's true, if it's found that his claim, the husband's claim is true, that she was mezana, and they find the Aiden that she was mezana when she was murasa, so then she's chayiv skila. If she's a ketana, she's chayiv skila. No such thing. There are no punishments to a ketana. A minor does not get any death penalty, any kind of penalty. So that can be. Of course, the pasuk is talking about only when she was 12 years old, not when she's been left. I would have thought pasuk is talking about even a minor. That whole pasuk. It says if the thing is found to be true, that she was not a virgin, so you take out the girl to the door of the house of the father, and they should stone her. That's the pasuk. Uktana surely not chayiv any punishment. She's not of age to get punished. So you see, the pasuk is talking about a nara. So that you don't need a pasuk. So the Gemara is agreeing to the halacha b'shlokish, but the reason doesn't make sense. You don't need a reason. Of course, the pasuk is only a drush of nara with the hay to say this halacha is true. Of course, it's talking about a nara, and the Gemara understands that since the halacha of punishment, if it's found to be true, only applies if she's a nara. So the halacha, when it's found to be false and is a punishment for the husband, that also only applies. It's only talking about a case where she's a nara, and therefore she'd be a ktana. There wouldn't be any punishment of meya kesef and malchus. So the Gemara explains what Rish Lakish meant to say. Ella, what did Rish Lakish mean to say? Kan nara. Without a hay, I feel b'mashma. He's coming to say something else. It's not really this halacha. You don't need a drasha for. This drasha is pasha. The Moshe because it says that she's chayiv skila if it's found to be true. So he's talking about a nara, and therefore if it's found to be false, there's no punishment to the husband either. But the pasuk is coming to the drasha is coming to say that. Notice here it's talking about a nara, not a ktana, like we just proved, and it has a hay. What does that show you? That learn out from here that wherever it does not have a hay, it even means a ktana. That's the point. The point is not here. The point is about there. And the truth is, we brought this down before by the din of onus and mufata, and that's what we learned over there. That the din of Rav Meir says that elo nara is nafka nara, not a bulgaris, not a ktana. Kom lakom sheish mecher ein knas. That if she'd be a ktana, there's no knas. But the Rabbanan argued over there, and they said that there's a knas even to a Ketana, and the Gemara over there asked, how do you know it? And this was the answer. You know from here. That since by Motzi Shema, it's talking about a Nara Dafka, not a Ketana, and it says a hay, from there you could derive, wherever it has Nara without a hay, it even means a Ketana. And over there, by the din of Onus, it does say Nara without a hay. So if they learn out that the din of Onus and Mafata applies even to a Ketana. So but this Gemara doesn't belong here. This Gemara belongs over there, and that's where we had it. We talk had it on the side here. It says on the side to look at them on the base. That's probably what the Gemara is. That the halacha of onus applies even to a ketana, like the Rabbanan of Rav Meir. And that's the end of that sugya. And now starts the last sugya. So also to stop over here, and now a new halacha. Tani Shila. Now this Gemara is really going to have two halachas and then a third halacha, which is going to be the rest of the sugya, which is going to continue on to tomorrow. Tani Shila. Shila said over a brisa. Shila is the name of a Amora, I guess, and he said over a brisa. Shalosh midas benara. There are three measures, three cases, three categories, three scenarios about the din of a nara, and we're talking about a nara hamarasa. That's what we talk about. That the din of namarasa is chayiv skila. So it says. So we learned the psukim. Might as well go to the psukim again, just to go through that. I should have. Let's see the psukim again. So we had the din of. Motzi Shemina, and it said in Memesa Ya Davar Azeh. So then the girl is chayiv skila, Pesach Beis Avios, Kalu and Shei Rabba B'Neva Mesa. So that talks about a case of the Motzi Shemina, but then it was found that it was true. Memesa Ya Davar. What happened over there? That she was already married. He married her. The husband married her, and then he finds out that she's not a virgin, and it comes out that she was Mazana while she was in Arusa. Not that she was Mazana Stam a long time ago. She was Mazana during the time that she was in Arusa. And she's chayiv skila uskalua pesach beis avia. But then the pasuk says later on a regular din of an amarasa, not that she got married, she was an ara marasa basula marasa, and someone was mizana with her willingly. So over there it says that they're chayiv skila, also chayiv skila. But here it's no halacha about pesach beis avia. You don't have to stone her by your father's house. Here it says v'hod seisem eshenehem al shara irahi, that they should be stoned by the gate of the city. It's very interesting because both of these halachas are not usual. The usual halacha is beis skila. They had a beis skila, they had a place, but Ben Espressen would punish somebody with skila. They had a place which was high, like 2 stories high, and they would throw him down, and then they would throw a stone if he did. But that's not by the shower here and not by the house. But there's special halacha over here by Nam Rasa, and it says if she was Nam Rasa not married, not Nesua, she didn't go through with the marriage, and she was found that she was Mazana while she was in Amrasa, then the skila by Shara Irahi to publicize it. Maybe something special about this. And the people are all there, the city, people of the city. If it was that she got married, she went through with the marriage, and then the husband says that she was not a virgin and they find out that she was Mazana when she was an Amarasa, also there's Skila, but over there it's Pesach Beis Aviyah. So that's what the Gemara is going to say now. Those are going to be the first two of the three categories. Sholosh Midas Benara, the three categories. Here's the first one. Witnesses came in her father-in-law's house, means she already has a father-in-law. That's called Chamiyah, Beveis Chamiyah, when she was already moved into her husband. How does it work? They would do Erusin, and she still will live by her father's house until it comes in soon, and then she'd move into her husband's house, which the Gemara calls her father's-in-law house. They used to live next to the father-in-law. They had another room. That was the whole base chasnas, and they would live at her father-in-law, the husband's house. And this is the case of Moshe Shemra. The Edom came when she was already married and living with the husband, that she was Mazana when she was still an Arusa in her father's house. That's the din of Moshe Shemra. What does it say? Top of the next page. That's the place that's the case where they give her skila, they stone her by the door of her father's home. Why is that? As if we're telling to the father and the mother, look at the one that you raised. Means we're blaming it. It seems we're blaming it on the way that they brought her up. That she's Mazana as an Amarasa, and they were right there in her house. They should have brought her up differently. That's what it seems. That's the first case. That if she was Motzi's case of Motzi Shemra, that after she was married, it comes out after she was married Nisuin, it comes out that she was Mazana. They find out she was Mazana when she was still in Arusa. Then there's the din of Skila Beis Aviyah. The second case is like the second parsha in the Torah, regular Amarasa. She didn't go through with the marriage yet. She was still in Arusa. And she didn't go through with the Nisuin. And it's found out when she's still by her father's house that she was Mazana in her father's house. That means she's an Amarasa, but she never became Chamiyah. She never went to her husband's house. So then the skila also chayiv skila, like the pasuk says, but then there's no din of Pesach Beis Aviyah. Then it would would be by the gate of the city, which we said is also not the regular base of skila, but it's a din of Namarasa when it was not married, the marriage wasn't consummated. The Askol brings down the Ritva. The Ritva says that in the case where she's already based Chamiyah, we want to announce, everyone should know that it was not that she was Mazana Beveis Chamiyah. They want to make sure that everyone should know that it was Beis Aviyah, something to that effect. There's more reason to have to make this announcement when she's already moved into her husband's house. So now they're saying that she was Mazana when she was by her father's house. In the case where she didn't get married, then everybody knows that she was Mazana in her father's house, so it's not necessary. He says a svara to explain the Gemara. Those are the first two cases, and really we can stop here. It means the sugya now goes into the third case, the third category. Said Tani Shila that there are three categories. So the first two we spoke about, that there's really pshat in the psukim, that the din of Pesach Beis Aviyah is only when she was already married, moved into her husband's house, and the din that Shahar is when she did not move into her husband's house yet. She's still by her father's house, and she was Namarasa, Narabasulam Arasa, then the din is Skila, but it's Pesach Shahar. Now the Brisa continues with the third case, Sarcha Ulabasol Bagra, that by the time it comes to kill her, she's already a Bulgaris. Means the whole halacha is talking about a Nara. The din of Shemra, the din of Narabasulam Arasa, is talking about a Nara, that she's not yet 12 and a half. What if she became a Bulgaris before they killed her? The word sarcha also means that she was mazana. The sarcha means that she spoiled. I'm not sure why I changed the word from zinsa to before I used the word zinsa. I'm not sure why I used the word over here sarcha, but that's the point, that she was mazana. But by the time it comes time to kill her, she's already a bulgaris. So how do you kill her? That she's still not, when she did avera, she was a nara, and the halacha of a nara is that she's supposed to get skila. But before they had a chance to kill her, she's already a bulgaris. She became 12 and a half. Did they give the punishment that she was chayiv as a Nara, or now she's a Bulgaris, and a Bulgaris would have been Chenek. So the Brisa says, Tidin b'Chenek. Then the judgment is going to be Chenek. That even though when she did Avera, she was a Nara, and it would have been Skila, since now at the time of the punishment she's already a Bulgaris, then the punishment is going to be Chenek. That's the end of the Brisa. That was the first two halachas was the din in the pasuk. When is it Pesach Beis Aviyah? When is it Pesach Shar Ha'ir? The third halacha is saying that if she became a Bulgaris by the time that we're killing her, so then it changes from skila to chenek. And that opens up a sugya now. The main of the chol heicha the shtani gufa shtani ketola. Do you mean to say whenever her body changes means that she transformed from a nara to a Bulgaris? Is that a reason why the death penalty should change? Which Rashi explains that we look at it now. If you're punishing her now, you punish her the punishment that she would have gotten if she would have done the Avera now, even though she did the Avera when she was a Nara, and now she's a Bulgaris. You look at the death penalty changes. The death penalty changes to how she would have been punished if she would have done it now, and therefore the halacha is only chenek. And then what is the kasha on that? There are many. Na'amar Rasa Shazinsa, Umisha Bagra, Hosea La Shemra. Here it's a little bit different. Here it's talking about that the husband was Mosi Shemra, which means he married her after she was a Bulgaris. She was an Amara such as in. So it comes out, we find out Aiden that she was Mizana when she was still in the Erison. And here she was a Bulgaris. And then she got married, and the husband said that she's not a virgin, and they find out that she was Taka Mizana when she was an Amarasa, which really goes back to the first case of the Brisa. The first case of the Brisa was the case of Mosi Shemra, that it said, how does it go? But here it says that she was a Bulgaris. What will be then if she's a Bulgaris in this case? When it comes time to kill her, that she's a Bulgaris. Which I thought the Brisa says that. The Brisa goes, the question is when you have the Brisa, they have three cases. The first case is the Mosi Shemra case. Second case is Beves Chamia. Second case was Beves Avia. Then it says Sarcha Ulubaso Bagra. So is it going on the first case? Is it going on the second case only? The Gemara is saying this case, a Bagra, in the first case, that she was Beves Chamia when she's already a Bulgaris. Not after the time of killing her, but the time of that he married her. The Nesuin happened, she's already a Bulgaris, and he has relations with her the first time, and he sees that he sees that she's not a virgin, and they verify. It comes out that the Edom come and say that she was Mizana when she was in the father's house. So it says here the Brisa said before Chenek, and here the Brisa is going to say that it's Skila. That's what's going to be in this Brisa. What does it say now? She's a Bulgaris, and now the husband says, I married her just now, and she was Mizana Beves Avia, who ain't a Lokia, the ain't a Nosin Measela. There's no Malchus for him if he would have been lying, if he lied. So we say there's usually two punishments, or three, Malchus and Meir Kesef, and he has to marry her. So here, no, since she's a Bulgaris, so then it doesn't apply. The Motzi Shem on a Bulgaris, now that she's a Bulgaris, so the Allah is not talking about that, and therefore he's not Chayiv Malchus, and he doesn't have to pay Measela. But he was if it is true, now the words don't make any sense. He was she goes to the Beis Haskila, and also Zomumeh goes to the Beis Haskila. Zomumeh means the false witnesses who testified falsely against her. Now they're Chayv Skila. Now that can't be. The words don't make sense because it can't be that she and someone's innocent and someone's guilty. If they're Zomumim, so then they get Skila. She doesn't get Skila. If she gets Skila, that means that they're not Zomumim. So the words don't make sense. After the word jumps up, he is Zomes Al Kedaitach. Does that make sense? Can't read that. It doesn't make sense that she and the Zomumim are Chayv Misa. If it's true, then she's Chayv Skila. If it's not true, then they're Chayv Skila. That's the regular din of Edom Zalmamin. Whatever they wanted to do to somebody, they get to punish themselves. They wanted to kill her, and then we find out that it's not true because they were Zalmamin, so then they get the punishment. But anyway, what do you see? It says Skila. It says here a case of Skila. What do we say? The Bugra, she was an Amir Rasa, but the Mosi Shemer happened when she was a Bulgaris already, and it still says that it's Skila. And you're saying that Bagra changes, that since at the time of killing her, she's already a Bulgaris, so then Ishtani Gufa, Ishtani Ktola. So here it's the same thing. This is the case. Here the case says that she became a Bulgaris, and it still says that it's Skila. So it's a kasha from this Brisa against what, who's this? It's a kasha from this Brisa against the Brisa of Sheila that says that when she becomes a Bulgaris, it's Tidan V'chenek. A contradiction in the two Brisas. Amar Rava, Mosi Shemra Karmit. You're talking about Mosi Shemra. Mosi Shemra is different. So the Brisa that the Gemara is saying that Shiloh, and Shiloh said that Sachal of Sol Bagra changes to Chenek, is only going on the second case. Means we had Shalosh Midos, case number 1, case number 2, and then case number 3 is about a Bulgaris. So we thought it's going maybe on the whole Brisa. No, it's only going on the second part of the Brisa, the second case where nothing to do with a Mosi Shemra. She was a Beis Avia, and she was an Amir Rasul Marasa that was Mazana. So she's Chayiv Skila. And there it says that at the time of coming to kill her, she's already a Bulgaris, then it changes to Chenek. But the first case where it's a Mosi Shemra, that was, Mosi Shemra is different. Mosi Shemra, where the husband comes, she got married, she went through with the marriage, and the husband comes and says now that she was already, she was not a Basula, Lamasasi Lebitcha Basulim. And we verified that it was while she was a Morasa, not when she was before the marriage. And over there it says she's Chayiv Skila. Yes, over there she's Chayiv Skila because Mosi Shemra doesn't change. I think Gemara is going to say a reason for that. Mosi Shemra Kamit, Shani Mosi Shemra, the Chidushu. There's a Chidush that the Torah says about Mosi Shemra. The point the Gemara is going to say is the whole din was saying a Mosi Shemra is only by a Morasa. Nara, how does the pasuk go? How does it go again? Let's get the pasuk. The whole pasuk of Mosi Shemra. Ki Hotzi Shemra B'Sulas Yisrael. Where's the pasuk say here? איש ייקח אישה, שזהו לקחתי, ולקח אביה נערה. And how do we know it's talking about Rusa? Taka doesn't say Rusa over here. Interesting. This is the first time that she wasn't a Rusa, and now the fact that she's Chayiv Skila, the Gemara looks at it like an Arusa. And the Gemara is going to ask the fact that he married her already, she's not a Arusa anymore. If you're going to say that you go according to the time of the punishment, so you're going to say that she changed. Here, she changed because before she was an Arusa, and now she's in the Suah. The fact that the husband married her. In other words, every Moshe Shemra is not an Arusa anymore. It's true that this nus happened when she was an Arusa, but now that the punishment's coming to happen, she's already in the Suah because the husband married her, and he came to business. So what's happening over here? She's a Ba'ula. So since every Moshe Shemra, you go according to the time of the Avera, not the time of the punishment. So therefore, as far as Bulgaris also, you go according to the time of the Avera. Moshe Shemra, the Chidushu, the Nechus Alma Bezinsa, a regular girl who would have been coming to the husband's house. That's called Nechus Alma. She came to the husband's house, and she was, even if she was not yet relations, but she was Mazana, she's called Chenek. Means the difference between a number, she's not called Maras anymore. She's called already Bulas Baal, even though she was not Bulas Baal. She didn't have Mamash Bula, but she came into her husband's house. She's already considered a Bula as far as the Nesua, and there's no din of Skila anymore. But Vilu Moshe Shemra, but Skila. But a Moshe Shemra, even though also he married her, he brought her into her house, and then he had relations, and then he says that she's not a Basula. The din over there is Baskila. Why is it Baskila? She's in the Suah already. So you see, by Moshe Shemra, there's a special halach over there that we don't change. They say that she changed, and therefore now she's a Bulgaria, so now she's in the Suah. You don't say now she's in the Suah and it's not a skill anymore. So also you don't say now she's a Bulgaria and there's no skill chenek. But a regular case where it wasn't a Moshe Shemra, on that Sheila was right. The Brisa before could say that Ishtani Gufa, Ishtani Ketala. Since the body changed and she became a Bulgaria, then also she doesn't get skill, she gets chenek. The Gemara is still in the middle. We'll stop over here. The Gemara is going to have a kasha now, and we'll continue. What's the Shabbos at 9 o'clock? If that's good with everybody, 9 o'clock. What time is Shabbos over? So 9 o'clock. Okay. Moshe isn't taking care of us. Okay. Yashikach, everybody. Just to summarize the Gemara, we had the Moshe Shemra today. The first Gemara said be Yisrael, that there are certain restrictions over here that Allah only applies to Yisrael, and therefore, if she is a Gioris and Allah don't apply, there's a special pasuk of Mesa to say that the skill is going to be even if she was a Gioris, but she was born to a Jewish mother, even though the conception was when she was a guy, the halacha of skila still applies. And then the Gemara had a couple of sugyas. One was about a Yisoma, and there were machlokas if the Yisoma, both by Moshe Shemra and by Onus, if the halachas of the penalty apply or not. And it seems possible like Rava that they do. And the proof is because you have to have a Gioris, a special pasuk, and every Gioris doesn't have a father. So she's a Yisoma. Still, it's only a miyad by a Gioris, but a regular Yisoma is chayiv the knas. The next halacha was about a ketana, and the Gemara said the ketana sholi is pasuk b'hatam Moshe Shemra because the pasuk says that if it was true, she's chayiv skila. Sholi is still about now, not a ketana, and so forth. If it was not true, also the punishment doesn't apply. No meya kesef, and there's a drush of naro without a hate to say that by kana onus and mafata that it applies even if a ketana also like the rabbanon of a mayor. The last Gemara was about the difference of pesach beis avia is not if she's already married to the husband in the husband's house. If it would have been while she was an Amarasa still and she didn't get married, then the din would be Pesach Shava here. And the last lach we learned about was if she became a Bulgaris in the interim, so then it says that punishment changes to Chenek. But if it was a case of Moshe Shemra, you don't say that it changed and it's still Chayiv Skila. Yashikach, everybody. Thank you. Have a good Shabbos. Kol Tov. Yashikach, everybody. Thank you very much.